Good evening. Hello, I am Cecilia Taylor, the Mayor of Menlo Park, and welcome to the City Council's January 23rd Special and Regular City Council meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with City Council, city staff, and members of the public participating in the City Council chambers. Please note, public comment speaker time may be limited. Roll call. I would like to introduce City Council members and staff present: Vice Mayor Drew Combs, City Council Member Betsy Nash, and City Council Member Jim Willison. City Council Member Maria Dorr is absent. Staff present include City Manager Justin Murphy, Assistant City Manager Stephen Stolte, City Attorney Nira Doherty, and City Clerk Judy Herron. City Clerk Herron, would you please provide instructions to the City Council and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Taylor. And again, echoing a welcome to our special and regular January 23rd Menlo Park City Council meeting. For members of the public who wish to provide public comment on an item on tonight's agenda, if you are participating in person, we'll ask that you complete a speaker card at the back table and then return to me at the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, after the mayor calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak, we ask that you engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, you can press *9 at that time. I would also like to announce that we are still recruiting for our library commission. We have 2 vacancies. That recruitment is running through, I believe, this Friday, the 26th. If you're interested, feel free to check out our website at menlopark.gov/commissions, or you can give us a call at 650-330-6621, or drop by City Hall and pick up an application. That includes my introductions and instructions. Mayor Taylor, you may continue.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. The next item is agenda review. Agenda review provides advance notice to members of the public and city staff of any modifications to the agenda order and any requests from city council members under city council member report. Does the city council wish to pull any items from the consent calendar or informational items for discussion to be heard after the last regular business item M1, or modify the order of any other agenda item? Next item is D, our closed session. City Clerk Herron, please provide public comment for closed session.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Taylor. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to provide comment on our closed session items, D1, conference with legal counsel for existing litigation, D2, conference with legal counsel for existing litigation, or D3, conference with legal counsel for anticipated litigation. Participating in person, please complete a speaker card at the back table, return to me at the clerk's desk. Participating virtually, please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. Calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9 now. Final call for public comment on closed session items D1 through D3. Seeing no hands or cards, Mayor Taylor, you may continue.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. And since we do not have public comment, we will move on to our next item. Vice Mayor Combs, can you please provide your recusal for item D1, I'm sorry, D3 for
D3.
closed session?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Taylor. I will be recusing myself from agenda item D3 on the closed session agenda because I have a disqualifying conflict of interest under section 87100.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Combs. Now the City Council will adjourn this meeting and reconvene in closed session. We will reconvene the regular meeting no later than 6 p.m. and anticipate reconvening no later than 6:30 p.m. We are hoping to reconvene the meeting at 6 p.m. Thank you.
All right. Having our city council back at our in-person dais, Mayor Taylor, you may recall the meeting to order.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Cecilia Taylor, Mayor of Menlo Park, and I would like to recall to order the City Council's January 23rd special and regular City Council meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with City Council, city staff, and members of the public participating in City Council chambers. Please note, public comment speaker time may be limited. I would like to introduce City Council members and staff present: Vice Mayor Drew Combs, City Council Member Betsy Nash and Jen Willison. City Council Member Maria Dorr is absent. Staff present include City Manager Justin Murphy, Assistant City Manager Stephen Stolte, City Attorney Nira Doherty, and City Clerk Judy Herron. City Clerk Herron, would you please provide instructions to the City Council and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Taylor. And again, echoing a welcome to our regular and special City Council meeting of January 23rd. For members of the public who wish to provide comment on an item on tonight's agenda, after the mayor calls for public comment, if you are participating in person, please complete a speaker card at the back table and return to me at the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, you can press the raised hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, you can press *9. I would also like everyone to know that we are currently recruiting for 2 vacancies on our library commission. So if you're interested in applying, please visit menlopark.gov/commissions. You can give me a call at 650-330-6621 or visit us at City Hall for an application. And that concludes my instructions at this time. Mayor Taylor, you may continue.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. Item G, report from closed session. I would like to introduce City Attorney Nira Doherty for our report from closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. There is no reportable action.
Thank you. The next item is H, public comment. Under public comment, the public may address the City Council on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the City Council once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The City Council cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the City Council cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general directions. I would like to call for public comment at this time. City Clerk Herron.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to provide comment for an item not on tonight's agenda, if you are participating in person, please complete a speaker card at that back table. Return to me at the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, now's the time to engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. Calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. This will be the final call for public comment for items not. Yes, thank you. I have got your card. But this will be the final call for additional public comment for item H. Okay, Mayor Taylor, we have 2 speakers. Our first speaker will be Tom McRae.
I'm the coach of Solo Aquatics, and happy to be here tonight and to thank you for your work surrounding the aquatics community. Solo's been part of that for the last 30 years. So thankful that in moving into the new contract for the pool, that language was continued, that go ahead and allow for space and also cover fees. And I know last 2 weeks ago I was here in regards to that, in regards to fees. And so happy that we're taking a look at that, because the impact from this past month would have been an increase of $1,680 to our organization, from which the city would have actually made $16.80. And so we are still working to fulfill the contract, some of the wording that states that Solo should have a contract in place basically a week after the contract. And so we're a whole year down the road basically from that time. But that's not why I'm here tonight. The reason I'm here is one of the things that was added to the contract was the emergency action plan. And that solo and part of safety was to be added to a discussion so that we actually were able to follow protocols in place. So that took place last Wednesday, and I've given you a couple handouts. One handout entitled Emergency Action Plan, and I noted on there that this is the handout that was distributed at Burgess Pool. The handout, all renters and lifeguards and things were supposed to attend, and clearly that didn't happen. B, this handout, there were not even enough copies of the handout for all the participants, which falls below the normal standard for these kinds of things. And but most importantly, was hoping that solo would be included so that we'd be able to look at some things like if there was an emergency, normal procedure would be to have a conversation with a group like solo to say, hey, when we're clearing the pool, clear your pool and move your children to this area. This is a safety protocol that we would like. Instead, we were walked through a series of different procedures out on the pool deck that really did not even match the standard that we have in swimming. So the second handout is from USA Swimming, and it kind of outlines what an AEP would be, and it also shows you what a flow chart looks like. For example, in the flow chart, the other thing that is still a problem is when the pool has a problem with its operation and may need to close, the communication to solo so that we can communicate to parents isn't there. But the biggest thing would be that I learned from this is that the AED was pulled out to show us what an AED is like to charge somebody's heart in case of an emergency. And the question was asked by somebody, hey, you know what, do the pads, are they the same? Do they give the same instruction? And unfortunately, the answer was, we've never had to use it, and so we don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Our next speakers will be Jovi Wong, Isla Karadugan, and Lulu Marksy.
Hello, council members. It is an honor for us to be here today. We are representing Menlo Park's Youth Advisory Committee. My name is Isla Karadugan, and I'm the president. I've been working with YAC for 3 years now, and I found it great.
I'm Jovi Wong. I'm YAC's vice president, and this is my first year working with YAC.
I'm Lulu Maxey. This is my first year working with YAC, and I'm the secretary.
We'd also like to announce that we are holding a flea market, and it'll be held on
March 24th from 10 to 2 with vendors all across the Bay Area, ranging from the ages to full-grown adults to teenagers and young kids.
Just to talk about what we do as YAC, essentially our goal is to plan events for the youth in our community and also to act as a bridge between the government and the youth in Menlo Park.
That's all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question? Where is the event?
The response was the Menlo Park Library. Thank you. And that does conclude our speakers for item H.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. Item I, special business. Our special business this evening are interviews of our Planning Commission applicants. City Clerk Herron, do we have any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to provide comment on item A1, interviews of Planning Commission applicant, if you are participating in person, please complete a speaker card and return to me at the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. And this will be the final call for public comment on item I1. Seeing no hands or cards, Mayor Taylor, you may continue.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. City Clerk Herron, will you please provide instructions on how the interviews will proceed?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Taylor. So this evening. This item was requested to be brought back to the City Council from the January 9th meeting to have an opportunity to interview the final Planning Commission applicant. So I will invite the applicant, Jessica Beely, to come up to the podium. And Jessica will be providing a statement, and the City Council then has the option to follow up with any further questions. And so with that, Jessica, I'll turn it to you.
All right. Hello, members of the Menlo Park community. My name is Jessica Beely Schroeder, and I'm interested in being a part of the Menlo Park Planning Commission. So I'm interested in being a member because I want to improve the place that I call my home. As a relatively new member of the Menlo Park community, I am excited to get involved in making my new community a better place for my family and my neighbors. I want to help improve the life for the medical resident biking home from work after a 30-hour shift, the new mom wanting to walk her kid around safe streets, the student walking her dog, the family who wants a safe neighborhood and some good restaurants nearby, and improve the quality of life for me, myself, and my own family. I hope to make Menlo Park my home for many years to come, and I'm excited on the prospect of working on something I'm personally passionate about that will directly help improve everyone's quality of life. Additionally, I'm applying for this role because it will give me a great opportunity to learn about city planning. I am looking forward to listening and learning a lot about city planning and understanding zoning ordinances and what makes a city well planned, and eventually to impact and improve city planning as well. And finally, I feel as if I may help bring a new perspective to the Planning Commission. As someone new to the community, a renter, and in my late 20s, I don't fit the typical bill of someone who is getting involved with local government. However, I believe my generation needs to become more involved, both to advocate for our own interests and learn from those more experienced. My family and I love Menlo Park, and I'm hoping to help contribute to make it a better place. Thanks.
And Jessica,
Thank
you can
you.
actually stay right up there in case there's any follow-up from the council. And so with that, I'll return it to the City Council if they have any follow-up interview questions for Jessica.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. Are there any questions from the City Council? Councilmember Nash?
Hi, welcome to the community. And I was wondering if you have an idea of the time commitment involved in the Planning Commission that's necessary in order to be well prepared for Planning Commission meetings.
I guess I'm a little unfamiliar on that. I think I remember reading it was a couple hours a month, at least of the meetings themselves, but I'm not exactly sure what else it entails.
Thank you.
Councilmember Willison?
Hi, Jessica. Two questions. One, have you attended a planning commission meeting? And then two, what's your understanding of land use?
I have not attended a planning commission meeting in Menlo Park. And my understanding of land use is what purpose we are assigning to which land, what, zoning, if this is zoned for business, if this is zoned for housing, single-family homes, or et cetera.
Thank you. And are there any other questions from City Council members? Right. Well, thank you so much for applying for the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you.
At this time, we will move to item J, which is advisory body vacancies and appointments, and consider applicants. And Ms. Herron, I'm reading your section.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So the item before the City Council is to consider the applicants and make an appointment to fill a vacancy on the Planning Commission for an unexpired term through April of 2025. The Planning Commission recruitment involved a 4-week period of advertisements and acceptance of applications. The city did receive a total of 4 applications for the 1 vacancy on the Planning Commission. One of those applicants did withdraw their application from the Planning Commission. That person was Amisha Oza, as they were appointed to the Park and Rec Commission on January 9th. As far as the process for making the appointments, the city council does have two options. The city clerk can take verbal nominations, alphabetical order by commonly used first is names for making the appointment, or the city council can opt for a more secret ballot where I will pass out Post-it notes and each member will provide one name for the one applicant to be appointed to the Planning Commission. And that concludes my introduction at this time. Happy to answer any clarifying questions or open to public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. Are there any clarifying questions from the City Council? Councilmember Willison.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. I have two questions. One, can you clarify the length of the term that we're appointing for? And the second question is, when exactly are we, I know that open commission recruitment is soon coming. When will we be appointing for the annual recruitment, and how many openings will there be on the Planning Commission?
Thank you, City Councilmember Willison. So tonight's appointment is for a vacancy to be served through April 30th of 2025. Annual recruitment will generally begin at the end of February, beginning of March, and appointments are made at the last April meeting of the City Council, which I believe is April 16th this year. As far as Planning Commission vacancies, we would be looking to fill 2 expiring terms on April 30th of 2024. So we've got 2 upcoming terms.
Thank you, City Clerk Herron.
My pleasure.
Are applicants aware of the Form 700 requirements?
I would have to take a look at the application to see if it provides any of the Form 700 information. Let me see if that's on here.
Perhaps that could be done in the future, but just since we do have 3 applicants in the room, there are financial disclosure paperwork requirements that are required with the planning commissioners, in case that's of any concern.
Thank you, City Council Member Nash. And I do not see it on the application, so if there is a consensus on the dais, I can add it to the application.
I'm supportive.
Thank you. I see nods. Okay.
Are there any other clarifying questions from the City Council before we go to public comment on this item? All right. City Clerk Herron, do we have any public comment?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to provide comment on item J1, consider applicants and make an appointment to fill a vacancy on the Planning Commission. If you are participating in person, please complete a speaker card at the back table. Return to me at the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, you can engage that hand feature bottom of your screen. Calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 at this time. I currently have 1 speaker, so this will be the final call for public comment on item J1. Okay, so we will close public comment and I will ask Ross Silverstein.
City Council, I just wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to be considered for this Planning Commission vacancy and apologize I wasn't able to attend the interviews in person early this month, but that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Ross. All right, and that does conclude our public comment for item J1. So Mayor Taylor, I will turn to you for direction on how the City Council would like to proceed with appointments.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. Let's take nominations.
Okay. Let me bring up our voting screen. Wonderful. Okay, so I will start with City Council Member Nash. May I have your nomination?
Ross Silverstein.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Combs?
Ross Silverstein. I would like to make a quick statement, which maybe I should have made before we started voting. I did want to appreciate and express my thanks to everyone who applied, but did want to say that with the Planning Commission, because of the commissions, it is the only decision-making body. I like to see prior commission experience, even if it's minimal, when it comes to Planning Commission appointees. And of the 3 applicants, only one has a prior Planning Commission, prior City Commission experience. And for me, it's a strong bias that someone coming into that role has some understanding of the role of commissions. And so that's taking nothing away from Mr. Silverstein's qualifications for the role. I did want to explain that for me was a leading reason for my decision.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. City Council Member Woolison?
Ross Silverstein, please.
Thank you. And Mayor Taylor?
Thank you. I'll nominate David Pollock.
Okay, thank you. So by acclamation, the City Council will be appointing Ross Silverstein. Congratulations, Ross. You'll be hearing from me probably tomorrow. Thank you.
Councilmember Willison?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate an appreciation to everyone. Also, the fact that there will be open recruitment happening momentarily for commissions. I know that the Planning Commission is kind of heavily skewed towards District 2. So just want to put a shout out for those who are listening, encourage those throughout the city to apply, and thank you all.
Councilmember Nash?
Also, thank you very much for applying, and to encourage everyone who was not selected this time to think about other commissions. As Vice Mayor Combs said, it is very good for the planning commissioners to have other commission experience. Although not a complete requirement, it's very, very helpful. And we do have 2 library commission openings right now, and as has been said, we'll be having other commission openings soon. But thank you very much for applying. And I guess the last thing, which others often say in the dais, several of us came to City Council through commissions and also had the experience of not being appointed to commissions the first time through. So please don't give up. Please do apply again. It's a very, very worthwhile activity. It's very good to serve the city, and you learn a lot and get to meet lots of people. So please, thank you.
Thank you to all the applicants and to our new appointee to the Planning Commission. And at this time, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is K, the consent calendar. Under the consent calendar, the City Council may take action to approve routine business items in one motion unless a City Council member, city staff member, or a member of the public requests that an item be discussed or continued to a later date. City Clerk Herron, do we have any public comment on the agenda, on the consent calendar?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to provide comment on our consent calendar items, K1, City Council meeting minutes, K2, the waiving of the second reading and adoption of an ordinance related to animals, K3, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Hart, K4, a resolution to enter into an MOU with the county to develop a compost quality improvement campaign. If you are participating in person, please complete a speaker card at that back table, return to me at the clerk's desk. Participating virtually, please engage that hand feature bottom of your screen. Calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. am seeing no hands or cards at the moment, so this will be the final call for public comment on our consent calendar items K1 through K4. We have no hands or cards. So Mayor Taylor, you may continue.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. Is there a motion and a second on the table to approve the consent calendar?
So I have not a motion. I wanted to call out L3. Actually, no, I didn't want to. Sorry, I want to call out L3. Which one did I want to call out? Am I at the right? The animal control ordinances. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm in the wrong place.
K2.
K2. Because is that part of what we're doing now with the consent? Yeah. Okay. For some reason on this, I'm not seeing it. I appreciate that we need to adopt this in conjunction with the county providing animal services. But I have in the past and will reiterate at the moment the as, because I have lots of concerns with the county's adjudication process as it relates to matters involving animals, specifically dangerous animal designations, that the city look into adopting a process by which residents have the ability to bring those decisions made in the name of the city by county hearing officers have a right to essentially appeal that decision to the city council. And so I'd like to take this as a moment to reiterate that request. I am supportive of and understand the need to adopt the measures here, but again, I think that there is still lots to be desired in the county's process as it relates to these matters. And one sort of minor way to address this is to allow Menlo Park residents to bring those matters directly to the city. Huh?
Would you like the city attorney to follow up with you?
Well, I guess I don't know what's like most appropriate here to see. Like, I can't give the city manager or the city attorney direction on to myself. I've tried a number of times; they don't know. But to see like whether there is some consensus among council to also provide this direction to explore some additional phase to this process.
Councilmember Willison?
So just to clarify, Vice Mayor Combs, sorry, we all have new titles, so I'm getting used to it. Vice Mayor Combs, you'd be open to approving the item on consent, but adding additional direction for the city to pursue an addendum to the process, or are you hesitant to approve the item as is?
No, I appreciate that the city has an obligation to approve. So I'm not making it sort of a quid pro quo. I will vote to approve it. I appreciate we have to adopt these ordinances based on past decisions. Again, my request is to explore an additional phase to this process. Now, if there is consensus or additional support on the council, then to provide that direction to staff. If there's not, then I have supported the changes, which I think is the right thing to do, but publicly registered that I have strong concerns about it.
Could you explain a little bit more as to what you're talking about? What I'm thinking of is I don't believe anyone in the city and especially on council has the expertise to make decisions about dangerous dogs. So could you expand a little bit on what you are thinking, please?
Yeah, so I think the I, I will only sort of call out that the city makes lots of, the council has lots of decisions of which it doesn't have a sort of subject matter expertise in. Based on the general, I think, ways in which we approach government, that we allow elected lay people to make sometimes specific decision, and that they have ability to weigh all of the different factors and to sometimes take in signal and information from experts in the field. So if the idea is that, like, no, I don't specifically have an expertise, or not asking anyone to have an expertise, but I do think that the city council has the ability to, in a general sense, look at the facts and make a determination about whether it is aligned with the decision the county has made in the name of the city or not. And I will also call into question, to some degree, as some of our residents have, the expertise of some of the county officers making this decision is, I think, not what I say, a closed issue. And so in that sense, I do think it would be appropriate for us to, like, weigh, for one, that residents would have that opportunity to bring it to council, and that we would look at those facts and weigh it. Because now it still could come to council, to the city council, but a resident would have to, after getting a decision that they don't like from the county, would then have to go hire a lawyer. So they do have that availability, or there is the ability that it comes to the city council, and the city council has to ultimately make a decision. But again, now that's a route that's only available to those residents who have the ability to go and hire a lawyer and decide that they're going to sue the city. Essentially, what I'm proposing is that we make that same option available to all residents, irrespective of their ability to go and hire a lawyer. Because if someone files suit based on a decision by the county, it is against the city, because the decision is made in the name of the city, and it's ultimately the city council that makes a decision on how it's going to engage in that lawsuit or not.
Councilmember Willison?
Yeah, I'm curious though, because if the council is kind of an appeals board, then the council is, I believe, then making a determination whether a dog is or is not dangerous, versus if a resident is unhappy with the decision from the county and files a lawsuit, and the council has to decide what to do with that lawsuit, they may not be opining about the merits of whether the dog is or is not dangerous. They're making a decision based on a lawsuit. So it's not totally, to me, apples and apples of the same decision-making by the council.
I mean, I would only say that generally, obviously, if someone is filing a lawsuit, it's because they got a dangerous dog decision, it's ultimately to overturn that decision, right? That's at the core of the lawsuit, that they want a different outcome. And so the city council has to make a determination whether it's going to stand by that outcome from the county and be the defendant in a lawsuit, or seek some way to settle it. And so in that way, then it is making a determination about it. That the city council, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, has all of the options in the world when it comes to that dangerous dog designation. They are not obligated to defend the designation based on our contractual agreements with the county. We can make a decision not to have a different decision with regards to that designation. So I would say that, again, but it just goes back to the distinction between how residents who have resources are able to engage and those who are not. So even if we're saying that, like, it's not, about a dangerous dog designation, it's about a lawsuit, again, it's residents who have the resources to engage the city in that way. And if you don't, then it becomes just the decision that you have to you have to live with, and you don't have any other options. And it's, to be clear, it's because I've seen this. This is not an academic issue. I've seen this play out in ways that I think are like sort of problematic in a process perspective. That residents have a decision from the county, and then again, the name is in the name of the city, that right, but then are told that they can't really engage the city in any way unless they sue. So that again, that's real world stuff, like, right? It's not theory. And I think that process, and then again, I won't go into too details because that is ongoing litigation, but I would have appreciated that process to be an open session here. As we know, it became a lawsuit, and so then it all goes into closed session. And there's no transparency in that engagement and that back and forth, which I find additionally problematic about it. That then not only do we talk about that, then we're creating a process, or there's a process by which only residents of some resource can access, but then it's a process that's under cloak, right? It's not a process of which there is a clear public record, and of which it is happening in full visibility of all residents to see and make a decision. And again, obviously, I will say that I will admit that creating this process doesn't mean that people still can't sue the city on these issues, because they can. But my hope is that having it out there as an option would lead people down, and because it's not an option that will require them to hire an attorney, will lead them down that path. And again, a path of which again there is some transparency.
Councilmember Wilson.
Thanks. My concern, because this is a safety issue versus, let's say, a permit that was denied and then someone appealed it to the city council and then we're trying to make some decision. To me, I feel like it needs to be left up to an administrative process with people with subject matter expertise. I'm just trying to think of it if it was somebody who was like arrested and then they are unhappy with, I'm not a criminal attorney, I don't know what I'm talking about here, so forgive my example, but if they're unhappy with the judicial system, then they can, I guess, sue or something, but they don't come to the council to plead their case and for us to change how they've been charged or whatnot. It went through the police or whatever, and so I'm uncomfortable making a decision related to a safety related issue in this case. So I don't know if there's another process of appeal that like it goes to some additional administrative review. That would be something I would entertain, but to have it come to us makes me nervous. That's just where I'm one person.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I think there's no need to belabor the point if the council's not there. I would only say that, like, actually in the analogy you offered, if someone had some complaint against the police department, there is a process by which you can first engage the police department by filing a complaint. So there is a way of which we provide for you to initially engage that. And then if you do decide to go the route of a lawsuit, ultimately it's the city council. If certainly you can go the route of lawsuit and make a decision of a judge, but as far as the back and forth about whether the city wants to look at the circumstances and settle, like, right, that is the city council that makes that decision. And it looks at the facts, it looks at whatever record there is, and it can make a decision about whether it thinks that in that case, in that scenario, the plaintiff or the person who's filed the complaint actually is legitimate. We make that decision about whether that case can be settled or not. Ultimately, obviously, we can say that it can, and then it would be left to the decision of a judge. But that all to say, I appreciate that, like, you're not there. So, and it is, and I think that your concern is valid. Like, right, I don't want to discount it. I think we're sort of weighing risk differently, and so that's totally fair, and I respect where you are.
Thank you. I have a question, City Attorney Doherty. Does exploring any additional phases, Vice Mayor Combs brought up, would that expose the city to any legal actions if we took on that process?
By adding another appeal to
Yes.
the county process? Well, I mean, sure, like in the sense that there's always additional risk when the city's involved in something versus when the city's not involved. But adding an appeal, process that involves the city council hearing the appeals, I think that in and of itself would not create any risk to the city.
And then can we request that the county have an additional appeal?
The county is not willing to add additional appeal process, but we could work with the county to see if we can add a city appeal process and still maintain our position in the MOU and coverage agreement with the county, despite the fact that we might have a slightly different ordinance than the county has adopted.
Would that work, Vice Mayor Combs? Because I'd be supportive of that, adding an additional appeal at the county level.
So it would be, but you're saying go and get the county's acquiescence to an additional appeal, though that would be with the city, not with the county.
That's right.
Yeah.
The county will not
Yeah.
take on another county appeal process. I've asked that.
Well, either way, my assumption was based on the vote that we're going to take tonight. We were going to have to engage the county to get them to say okay to this. Again, which for me is also me moving from where I initially was on this. To be clear, so I have moved on this, but I understand that the most that the council could do today would be to direct the city manager and city attorney to engage the county to see whether they would be willing to allow for this additional process. And then based on that, coming back to us. And my assumption would be that any process that would be implemented would be one that the county would have to okay. Which again, to be clear, is me moving from where I was originally on this issue.
Councilmember Willison?
Yeah, can I, Vice Mayor Combs, can you just clarify when you say the process of appeal, are you being prescriptive that it would have to come to the council, or would you be open to a more administrative appeal?
So if there is support, I would be okay with giving direction to staff to explore, is there some appeal process which the county might be okay with? And so we know, as the city attorney stated, they're not going to do another appeal process. And so the point, yeah, I would be okay with that approach, but I'm going to even make it broader. And in the sense of like we could just generally engage the county and give direction, like where would they like officially stand on some sort of like additional process. And certainly, and I would be okay with like, I don't know what an additional administrative process looks like that the county is saying that it won't participate in, but I'm not, but if there is something there, I could be supportive of it. Because the idea is not necessarily that, I do like the idea of it coming to the lay body, the council, but I am, but more than anything, I like the idea of residents being provided another option. Again, given what I think have been some of the problematic decisions that have come from the county process at that first sort of trial level.
Councilmember Nash?
Thank you. Following up on Mayor Taylor's question about liability, if the council were to take on this process and have the ability to appeal to council, and the council makes a determination that's different than the county on a dangerous dog, would we have liability there? And I don't expect an answer right now, but I guess it seems like there's a lot to explore here. And do we need to make a determination tonight, or can this be part of our priority setting workshop, or at least find out some idea of, if we go down this path, what else, how does that affect other items?
I will let the city manager answer that question, but I'll start by saying I do recommend, in order not to jeopardize our services agreement with the county for animal control services, that you approve the ordinance that's before you tonight. And then if you want to bring back additional changes, you direct us to do so, and we would amend the ordinance at a later time, because the county is expecting all cities to have an effective ordinance that mirrors the county's by the end of February or middle of February. And then as to the scheduling of bringing ordinance back, I'll let the city manager respond to that.
Let's see. So it would be helpful if we can move on from this topic at this point. So it's a matter of, I think some of the initial exploration would be to kind of even just frame another opportunity for the council to discuss it. So then I'd need to be working with the mayor in terms of the amount of time on council calendars schedule to adjust that. Part of it might be through the upcoming goal setting, but I'm not sure we're looking to get to that level of granularity as part of that process. So I'd say as long as there's interest in the council considering some fashion of this at a future item, that's probably the most important thing for this evening. And then I'd be working with the city attorney and the police chief on some of the substance, and then need to work with the mayor on when we actually bring it back to the city council. I think that would probably be the biggest issue, because that would be the timing of how things need to get framed for the council discussion, unless the council does not want us to prepare any other information and allow you to discuss the matter. I think you need a little bit more context in terms of some of the trade-offs and what would need to be done to kind of effectively sort of like contract out this sort of service yet again for another hearing. I think that's conceptually what it would take in terms of like preparing staff reports, things like that, because there'd be no new information that the city would provide in another appeal.
Well, and to be clear, I've never suggested not proceeding with just cleanly approving what's before the council tonight, but I think maybe we can even step back from that ask and say, like, could we just explore with the county initially, like whether there would be some objection, or whether they could see this as something that they would be supportive? Because it doesn't, like, given again the action the council is going to take tonight, it may not be the best use of time for us to go back and forth about the specifics of a process under which we've sort of given the county the right to prohibit. And so I think for me, the ask would be just would there be willingness to support on the council to explore how the county might respond to such a request? And if that information has not been already derived,
Yeah, I although we've not like drafted language and sent it to them, I have spoken with the county about it, and I believe that depending on what the direction is and what the ordinance modifications look like, that as long as the city bears all costs and all associated liability, that the county won't care.
Right.
They won't upend or modify their process for an additional appeal. But as long as it's out of their hands, I think that's probably going to be okay.
Councilmember Willison?
Are any of the other cities that are part of the county, I believe 19 other cities, looking to do an appeal process?
I don't believe so, but we actually have Lori Morton-Faisal from the county available right now, and if you like, we can promote her, and I believe she can probably answer that question because all the other cities are going through the adoption process in these weeks right now also.
I'd be supportive of that if it's brief. We're just asking one question.
Okay. Judy, can you promote Lori? And Lori, if you can, oh, hello.
Hi. Hello, Mayor and council members and City of Menlo Park. My name is Lori Morton-Fizel, and I'm the manager of animal control and licensing. I believe the question that was asked is any other city entertaining adding an appeal to the ordinance, and that is no. No other city is looking at doing that. And as your attorney stated, the county, I've discussed this with county council and my supervisors, and we will not do the appeal process for the cities. So if the cities want an appeal process, it would be up to the city to take on that burden and that liability and cost. Thank you.
So then my follow-up question would be then not whether any city is entertaining an appeal process, but do all cities currently have a process by which the county decision is the final decision and that the only additional recourse is to file a lawsuit? Because I understood that Portola Valley had a slightly different process. And so that would be my question is, does all of the cities in the county have the process that Menlo Park has? And that is that the county is the final decision-making body, essentially, and that any challenge to that would have to be brought in a lawsuit.
Currently, yes. Portola Valley has now gone with the county, and they will no longer be doing hearings on their own. They found it cumbersome and found that there were a lot of conflicts that the town council knew the people that were coming forward. The decision, just so you're aware, is made by a hearing officer that makes a decision without seeing the case or hearing the case. So they're not a regular employee. That's all they do are hearings. But every city is adopting the ordinance and allowing the county to do this process. There is no appeal. However, the dog owner can file a writ, which has led to some city settlements. What I can let you know is by changing the ordinance to where vicious has a much higher threshold, the number of writs going to Superior Court will decrease because less dogs will be deemed vicious. Does that answer your question?
So yeah, and I think the city manager asked that we move on, and I'm okay with
Sure.
moving on. But I will only highlight the point that like it seems as though you guys came to the conclusion that there was something problematic in your process, specifically as it relates to the vicious dog designation that related, that then resulted in these lawsuits, which you are now trying to mitigate against by changing the process, of which you're now saying that like your expectation now is that there are less lawsuits, going to be less lawsuits, which would suggest that you thought that the more lawsuits was a problem.
And that's actually not the reason why we changed it. The reason why we changed it is we did extensive years of research and looked at all the different ordinances within the jurisdictions locally to us. We looked at the state law, we spoke with attorneys for the dog owners, and we made a conscious decision to increase the threshold of vicious animal. So it wasn't due to the litigations. All I am stating is that it will decrease because less dogs will be deemed vicious. But that is not our motivating factor. The factor has nothing to do with the city's lawsuits. It's looking at a fair and just process for the animals and the residents of the counties and cities.
And so then the process is now more fair and more just than it was before. which is why you prompted it. So it wasn't the lawsuits, but it was just that like there was your determination that you could have a more fair and just process, and so you made those changes.
Well, San Mateo County has been the strictest in vicious animals for years. And again, like I said, we've been working on this ordinance for over 6 years, and we've been looking at different jurisdictions. So as laws change, different things change. Everybody used to have a really strict law, and we are changing our law now. But it wasn't that we did anything wrong or that we weren't wanting to change it. It just took a long time to change this ordinance. And with as many stakeholders as we had 6 city attorneys. We had an attorney for the Peninsula Humane Society. We had 4 subject matter experts. So if you can imagine all those people in the room, that's a lot of people that have to change an ordinance. So it's not that we had something wrong. We just looked at it and as a group collectively decided to change the threshold for vicious, because what was happening is most cases that would go vicious, the hearing officers would deem dangerous. So it was just making that agreement and changing the ordinance.
Thank you. I appreciate you
welcome.
being available to clarify that information for the council.
You're very welcome. And if you need me to come to another meeting, not a problem at all. I would be more than happy to attend and discuss with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, going back to the consent calendar. So I'm not sure what decision the council has come to. Councilmember Nash, did you have one last thing, please?
Well, actually, I wanted to know whether, how you wanted to handle this decision.
Yes, based on what the county representative just shared and what our city attorney shared, I do share some of your concern just based on past experiences. But there is opportunity, City Attorney Doherty, to come back with something additional, approving the current ordinance now with the county, the agreement with the county, but coming back later with something. And it would just have to be a decision based on agenda management when that would actually occur. Does that? I see 2 people.
Oh, just if we're looking to kind of give formal direction, with all due respect, I'm not interested in spending council time on this topic any further, especially given the testimony that we just heard from the county officer. So that would be my position.
And I am the same.
Okay. Thank you. Our 5th council member is in here to break the tie. So at this time, City Manager Murphy, can we go ahead and approve the consent calendar? And then we already know there's a request from at least 2 council members to bring this item back so that we can move on.
Yes, just to be clear with the, we'll need to kind of bring back something to kind of confirm that there's a desire by a majority of the council member to spend resources on the next step. So I'll find some opportunity to do that.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. At this time, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I will move to approve the consent calendar.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a motion on the floor by City Councilmember Nash and a second by City Councilmember Willison to approve the consent calendar. Any further City Council question or discussion? Seeing none, please proceed with voting on your screens. And the motion passes with City Councilmember Dorr absent. Thank you.
Thank you, City Clerk Herron. Our next item is item L, the public hearing. Public hearings are a formal proceeding held in order to receive testimony from all interested parties on a proposed issue or action. Tonight's public hearing is to consider and adopt a resolution amending the 2023-20 31 housing element of the general plan as conditionally approved by the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development. Here to introduce this item is our Principal Planner, Tom Smith, and Community Development Director, Deanna Chow.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor and City Council members. We're happy to be with you this evening on this item. I do have a presentation that I will bring up here to share with you shortly. Thank you for your patience, pulling it up. So first, I'll give a little bit of background. Beginning in 2021, the city embarked on almost 2 years of public meetings and community input to update the city's general plan housing element. The housing element is a plan to address the city's housing needs for an 8-year period from 2023 to 2031. And it includes a list of projects and sites that could accommodate development of nearly 3,000 housing units that are required during that time, and also includes goals and policies and programs to encourage housing production, improve equity, and reduce disparities in housing throughout the community. The housing element is a roadmap for housing during the 8-year period, and it includes 69 programs in the document that cover a range of actions from supporting affordable housing development to encouraging housing for special needs populations and promoting sustainable and resilient housing. The City Council adopted the housing element on January 31st of 2023, and the housing element was then submitted to the State Department of Housing and Community Development, called HCD, for review. In 2023, HCD and the city discussed a couple of rounds of revisions to the adopted element, which were subsequently approved by the City Council. And in December of last year, HCD indicated that the revised housing element was substantially compliant with housing element law, and certification could be granted once the revisions were adopted by the City Council. On January 8th of this year, the Planning Commission recommended that Council adopt the amendments to the housing element. And on January 18th, the Housing Commission also recommended that the Council adopt the amendments. And that brings us to this evening. Attachment F of the staff report provides a comprehensive list of changes to the housing element since Council adopted it in January of last year. And since Council last saw the housing element in October of 2023, there have been just a couple of minor changes. So the first one was a minor wording change to the mid-cycle review program, that's program H1H, to specify that waiver requests under state density bonus law are a potential metric to track progress in determining the city's effectiveness in meeting its regional housing needs allocation. And then the second change was listing the range of residential densities that were approved by Council late last year in program H4K, which is the program that outlines the rezonings that were done in November and December of 2023. And the potential range of densities could be as high as 100 dwelling units per acre in certain areas of the city through zoning alone, or through the affordable housing overlay could go as high as 150 dwelling units per acre. HCD did review these proposed changes that I just described and indicated that they were satisfied with those revisions subsequent to being adopted by the Council. The Planning Commission and Housing Commission and staff recommend that the City Council adopt the resolution to approve the proposed amendments. After discussions with HCD and the City Council on revisions to the adopted housing element throughout 2023, The amendments would enhance and clarify and support the housing element and its implementation. HCD has indicated its satisfaction with the housing element revisions and will grant final certification after the amendments are adopted. And staff would also be able to move forward with focusing more towards implementing more of the housing element programs, knowing that we are working from a fully certified housing element. So after City Council action, staff would submit the housing element to HCD for that final certification. I would note that housing element implementation is already underway, and as you'll recall, late last year with the zoning-related amendments that were approved by council, we actually implemented 8 of those 69 programs. In the coming year, staff will be focusing on programs that have featured prominently in council discussions and through community feedback, and so among those would be work on analyzing and preparing the downtown parking lots for affordable housing, the anti-displacement strategy, beginning to implement that, and then beginning the process of revising the city's below market rate housing program guidelines. And so those are just a couple of the highlights of the many programs that we will be working on. In addition, we are continuing work on the environmental justice and safety elements, and anticipate returning to council tentatively during the spring months of this year for more information on that. With that, I will return it to you, Mayor Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. And just bringing it back to the dais to see if you have any clarifying questions before we open up public comment. Ms. Herron, at this time, can we take public comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Taylor. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to provide comment on our public hearing item L1, consider and adopt a resolution amending the 2023-31 housing element of the general plan as conditionally approved by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. If you are participating in person, please engage that hand feed, or please complete a speaker card at the back table. Return to me at the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, please engage that hand feature at the bottom of your screen. Calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. I currently have 2 speakers, so this will be the final call for public comment on our public hearing item L1. Okay. Holding at 2 speakers, so we will close public comment. And our first speaker will be Jenny Michelle, followed by Pam Jones.
Dear Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, staff, neighbors, and members of the public, I'm Jenny Michelle from the Coleman Place Neighborhood Block, District 3, longtime renting resident, City Clerk Judy Fan Club member. Personal comments. I support our adoption of the 6th housing element. Yeah, doing the work. We're on an island. Atherton, Woodside, Portola Valley, and Palo Alto. These munis border us and are not substantially compliant with HCD and are crying about the metrics, like a terminal lung cancer patient arguing to keep smoking. Our 2024 priorities must include the environmental justice and safety element, where we still need to confront whatever zoning we accomplished in District 1 to be spread across the city, especially by transit arteries. For context, Sunday there was a town hall for the challenger for a state assembly rep. The majority of the attendees were at least 20 years older than me, and I'm pushing 50. Want to guess how many of them were white? Oh, wait, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Okay. Want to guess how many of them were white? Almost all. Do I feel comfortable around a room of angry old white folks who are frightened at the thought of 4 dwelling units being built next door? No. You guys practice corporal punishment, normalized obscene single use of limited raw goods and materials, gave us the emotional support or oversized vehicles, and you like young girls. But your ability to protect your $16 million single family home is in jeopardy, ? And that somehow is an obligation of governing bodies? San Mateo County is desperate to get unhoused in shelter beds by passing an ordinance to institutionalize poor, thinking it will incentivize us. 40 people died on our streets last year, but we have no housing crisis. The jeering was eerie. The theme, you sound like you enjoy certain comforts, like you know what a vacation is, or what the concept of leisure is. What is that and why do you do it? You sound like you see a doctor when you have a medical issue and treat it when medically advised. Wow, what is a backyard and what do you do there? Have you purchased new shoes in the last 5 years? Have you been homeless? Lived in overcrowded housing situation? Ever worked more than one job at a time? You must eat food daily and sleep. Oh, wait, did you say parking again? Sounds like you must drive. Each stall is about $135,000. So let's eliminate free parking and save for street parking and other exceptions. Or wait, you drive 7 hours a day. See what I'm saying? I think there's a lot more that we can do with this housing element as we continue to go through the milestones in the next 8 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And our final speaker will be Pam Jones.
Thank you. I first want to acknowledge the commitment of our staff to continue the revisions until they got it right, until they could get approval for us. And I want to congratulate them on all of the work that they have done. And I hope that the council will support adopting these the amendments to the housing element. And thank you.
Thank you, Pam. So although we have closed public comment for this item, we did have one additional hand raised. Mayor Taylor, I will turn to you if we are able to reopen public comment for this item.
Yes.
Thank you. So our final speaker will be Jeremy Levine.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for this opportunity to talk. I just want to say on behalf of the Housing Leadership Council, this housing element has a lot of really good policies, and we are excited for you to approve it and get to work implementing the vision that you have laid out and your staff have laid out. We really appreciated the opportunity to work together with the city on developing this plan, and we're excited to continue working together with the city to implement. So thank you for your dedication to supporting affordable housing in Menlo Park. We're looking forward to working together in the next 8 years.
Thank you, Jeremy. And that does conclude our hands and cards. Mayor Taylor, you may continue.
Thank you. Well, now I will close the public hearing and open up the discussion for the city council. Does anyone on council have any comments? No. I do have one clarifying question, and that is under the program H5.4, renters protection, when it comes to the evictions, that is both legal and illegal evictions. Does it cover both?
Sorry, could you say the program number again?
It is H5.4, or policy H5.4. I might be looking at the incorrect version of the housing element. I think there's a few iterations. But it's the one under renter protections. So I just want to verify that the evictions cover both legal and illegal evictions.
Yes, for this particular policy, it would encompass both of those things.
Okay, thank you. If there are not any other questions?
Yeah, I'll move to approve, to adopt, to do whatever we need to do.
I will second.
Thank you. So I have a motion on the floor by City Councilmember Willison and a second by City Councilmember Nash to adopt a resolution to amend the 2023-2031 housing element of the general plan as conditionally approved by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. Any further City Council question or discussion? Seeing none, please proceed with voting. And the motion passes with Vice Mayor Combs dissenting and City Councilmember Doer absent.
Vice Mayor Combs?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to clarify, I had no specific objection to those amendments and very much understood the necessity of them. I have pre-existing objections to the housing element, which I won't belabor here tonight, but that was reflected in my vote tonight.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Combs. The next item is M, regular business. Under regular business, the City Council considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require City Council approval. The regular business item is M1, waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance repealing and replacing Municipal Code Chapter 5.26 to adopt by reference in its entirety Chapter 4.98 of the San Mateo County Ordinance Code. Here to introduce this item is City Clerk Karen.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So as just stated, the item before the City Council currently is an update to the Tobacco Retailer Permit Ordinance. The recommendation for the City Council is to waive the first reading this evening, as well as introduce an ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 5.26 of the city's municipal code for tobacco retailer permits, and to adopt the county's Chapter 4.98, which is their ordinance, and set the second reading and adoption of the ordinance for February 13th City Council meeting. A little bit of the background for this item. In May of 2010, the first ordinance was adopted by the Menlo Park City Council that provided sellers of any tobacco products needing to obtain and maintain a valid tobacco retailer permit, and it also authorized the enforcement by San Mateo County. In December of 2019, a subsequent ordinance was adopted, number 1064, and this one just banned the sale of flavored tobacco and e-cigarette devices. In May of 2023, the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors adopted amendments to the county's tobacco retail permit ordinance, which is achieving uniformity by requiring any city which desires the county to administer its ordinance to adopt the county ordinance in its entirety by referencing or adopting an ordinance that contains each of the provisions of the county's ordinance verbatim, which is before the City Council this evening. I wanted to provide some details on the updates to the city's ordinance, which is reflected in the already adopted county ordinance. Again, this will provide a uniform countywide regulation for tobacco retailers. The county does require the adoption of this updated ordinance in order to enforce and regulate. It also authorizes the county to administer and enforce the ordinance. There is broader enforcement of administrative provisions related to suspension and revocation of permits, fines, and explicit authorization to have the county administer the city ordinance. There's been updates to enforcement, suspension, revocation, admin fines, and the addition of public nuisance and compliance monitoring sections. The proposed ordinance does create more defined definitions. I'll be providing some of that detail here. It has added the term consumer. It added the term coupon. It added a term electronic smoking device, which which means any device that may be used to deliver any aerosol or vaporized substance to a person through inhaling from a device. That is sometimes referred to, but not limited to, an e-cigarette, an e-cigar, e-pipe, vape pen, or e-hookah. The more terms are included or updated and added is full retail price, labeling, packaging, permit or tobacco retail permit. Tobacco and tobacco products were more heavily defined, as well as tobacco product flavor enhancer, which is a more new product designed, manufactured, produced, marketed, or sold to produce a characterizing flavor when added to a typical tobacco product. And finally is a youth populated term, which refers to schools, libraries, park playground, youth center, rec centers, and childcare facilities. These new restrictions apply to new retailer operations in any of these youth populated areas. Finally, on this slide, detailing permitting requirements for retailers and restrictions on locations of retailers. This section does add a requirement for a permit. Permit conveys a limited conditional privilege and more well defines displays or offers of selling tobacco products without a tobacco retailer permit. It did add language about the permit being non-transferable, and it details permitting requirements for retailers and restrictions on locations, and adds a limit on eligibility for a permit section. Wanted to provide a brief overview of the outreach that we have done for tobacco retailers. For this meeting, we did mail letters as well as email letters to the 19 tobacco retailers that we have, letting them know of the meeting this evening for the first reading. And if the City Council does approve the first reading, the second reading will be heard on February 13th. And again, staff will do the same process of notifying our tobacco retailers of that second reading and proposed adoption of the updated tobacco retail ordinance. And that does conclude my presentation. Happy to answer any questions or open it up to public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. I appreciate all the information that you just shared about the additions that the county made in the language changes. At this time, are there any clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Okay, Ms. Herron, let's take public comment.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So at this time, if any member of the public would like to provide comment on item M1, waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance repealing and replacing Municipal Code Chapter 5.26 related tobacco retailers to adopt by reference in its entirety Chapter 4.98 of the San Mateo County Ordinance Code. If you are participating in person, please complete a speaker card at that back table. Return to me at the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, now's the time to engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. For calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. And this will be the final call for public comment on our regular business item M1. Seeing no hands or cards, Mayor Taylor, you may continue.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. And if there are no questions from the City Council, I'll take a motion.
I'll move.
Oh, you got a question. I don't know what's going on.
I will second.
You made the motion? Thanks.
Yes. Thank you. So I have a motion on the floor by Vice Mayor Combs and a second by City Council Member Nash to waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 5.26 to adopt by reference in its entirety Chapter 4.98 of the San Mateo County Code of Ordinances, which provides uniform countywide regulations for tobacco retailers, consolidates and clarifies definitions, enacts additional permitting requirements, and designates the County of the San Mateo to administer the ordinance on behalf of the City of Menlo Park and set the second reading of the ordinance for February 13th. Any further City Council question or discussion? Seeing none, please proceed with voting. And the motion passes with City Councilmember Dorr absent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. The next item on our agenda is item N, informational items. Informational items are transmitted to the City Council in staff's effort to provide an update on matters of importance to the City Council. Informational items are not action items. However, a City Council member, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. This evening, we have item N1, City Council agenda topics for February 2024. Item N2, transmittal of city attorney billing. And item N3, City Council fiscal year 2023-2024 priorities work plan. At this time, City Clerk Herron, do we have any public comment?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to provide comment on our informational items N1 through N3, if you are participating in person, please engage that, or please complete a speaker card at that back table, return to me at the clerk's desk. If you are attending virtually, you can engage that hand feature bottom of your screen. Calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9 now. Final call for public comment on our informational items N1 through N3. Seeing no cards or hands, Mayor Taylor, you may continue.
Thank you. Are there any questions from City Council members? Moving on to item O, which is the City Manager report. At this time, I'll introduce the City Manager, Justin Murphy.
Good evening, Council. This evening, I don't have any specific updates or reports.
Thank you. The next item is P, City Council Member reports. Does any of our council members have a report out? Councilmember Nash.
Thank you. City Clerk Herron, could you put up this slide? Thank you. So what I wanted to do is just, I attended the first meeting of the year of the Emergency Services Council. It was also my first meeting of the Emergency Services Council. And it was the first meeting, I believe, of the new county Emergency Services Director, who was very impressive, Dr. Shruti Depakard. And she is previously with the health services in the county and is a physician. And the energy and just enthusiasm in the room was tremendous. I have high hopes for this group really coming together with emergency preparedness, emergency services for the county, and very strongly partnering with the city. So I wanted to just show one slide, since most people I don't think have a chance to see what this is. The DEM is the Department of Emergency Management for the county. The goals, whereas they have these 5 goals: enhancing community resilience by fostering a culture of preparedness, optimize integrated emergency management by strengthening partnerships, advance technological integration in emergency management to make data-driven decisions, ensure rapid and effective response and recovery, promote continuous improvement and innovation. And there's a lot going on. There's going to be trainings for cities, and it's a very exciting group. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Nash. And if there are no more reports from our City Council, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.